Hello, my name is Christina. I'm a doctor working in London, and today I wanted to talk about imposter syndrome, which is something most of us will go through at some point. I know for one I have. So, imposter syndrome can manifest itself as a feeling of not being good enough. Like everyone around you is comfortable and confident and knows exactly what they're doing, but you feel lost and so far behind. These feelings are normal, especially amongst high performing careers such as doctors, and can lead you to have doubts about your own capabilities, a feeling of inadequacy despite evidence pointing that we're doing just fine, and a lot of anxiety. So today I wanted to talk about a few reasons behind why we feel this imposter syndrome and a few tips and tricks that have helped me overcome it and hopefully will help you too. It is ingrained in our brain and in our culture to constantly be comparing everything. We compare things, we compare people, we compare places, experiences, and I'm sure all of us know that comparing is unhealthy, but I wanted to focus on why it's also unfair and therefore invalid. Different people will have different experiences and therefore exposure. For example, your friend might have already done a lumbar puncture and you haven't because they are doing a neurology rotation or because they happen to be in the right place at the right time and the registrar offered. It is the circumstances which are different and not something intrinsic to you. We all have strengths and weaknesses. We are over aware of things that we cannot do, but don't pay as much attention to the things that we can do. We will always compare our worst, which only we know, to other people's best, which is what they're showing. But others' perfection is an illusion. We don't know what's going on underneath, and in all likelihood, they're comparing themselves to others too. Finally, comparisons require metrics, and some things are not easily quantified. For example, empathy, communication, hard work, teamwork. These immeasurable qualities are actually very important to being a doctor too. So what can we do about it? Instead of comparing ourselves to others, why don't we compare ourselves to our past selves? See how much we've improved, how much we've learned. Only by focusing on ourselves can we learn a little bit more each day. Growth will not be linear, but after some time you look back and see how much you've grown. You can only control your own life, and the only way to improve is try and be the best version of yourself every day. We should also practice self-acceptance. We cannot be good at absolutely everything, and we should be able to accept and be kind to ourselves for our strengths and for our weaknesses. Also ask yourself, is there a specific trigger that's making you feel not confident? I remember when I was an F1, doing cannulas would make me very, very nervous for some reason, and I would just avoid it. Instead of this, what I should have done and ended up eventually doing is ask for help from someone that's actually good at this, and also look out for opportunities to keep practicing this until you feel confident. And remember, life is not a competition. The second thing I wanted to talk about is confirmation bias. If we already have a null hypothesis that we keep telling ourselves over and over every day, for example, I am not a good doctor, we're gonna go about our day collecting evidence that supports this hypothesis and ignoring anything that challenges it. We will have a biased search for information, a biased interpretation of events, and a biased memory. We will filter out any positive comments that we receive and just focus on the negatives. Have you been in a situation where you get feedback and 99% of it is positive, but you just keep focusing on that 1% which is negative? So what can we do to avoid this? So why don't you write a positive hypothesis every day in the morning, or just tell yourself this positive hypothesis on the way to work? For example, I am a good doctor, I am confident, I am capable, and then go about your day trying to collect at least 3 pieces of evidence that this hypothesis is correct. And once you get home, just write them down. And just try doing this every day. And this will help rewire your brain into a positive interpretation of the events around you, or at least a more objective one. And if you ever feel down or not very confident, you can always open your notebook and have a look at the evidence that shows that you're actually a good doctor. Another thing I try to remember is a quote, I'm not sure who said it, but it says, whether you think you can or you cannot, you will be correct. And it just emphasizes the importance of mindset. The third thing I wanted to talk about is perfectionism. So unfortunately, a lot of us are perfectionists and hold ourselves to unrealistic expectations and standards. We put a lot of pressure on ourselves to achieve and link our self-worth to our accomplishments. Some people might also feel pressures from society or from their families. So what can we do about this? So the first thing would be to re-evaluate your expectations and standards. You cannot be good at everything from the start. Every senior around you has been in your shoes. It's okay to ask for help. You are not expected to know everything. We can also try to shift the focus to the process instead of the outcome, to the progress instead of the results. Think more about how far we've come and not just what's left to go. Another important thing would be reframing failure as something positive and not something negative. Seeing failure as a learning opportunity and as a normal part of the learning process. And finally, trying to internalize success. If someone gives you a compliment, try to take it. And also work on internal validation. Everyone would feel like an imposter if they would fail to internalize their success. I also wanted to talk about the inner critic, which is this little voice in our head that keeps judging and criticizing us and getting in our way. So, what can we do about this? I think mindfulness and journaling is a very good place to start because it will help you become aware of what you're saying to yourself. Once you're aware of the rules and limiting beliefs you keep telling yourselves, then you can start trying to change them. I would also be very wary of any sentences you keep telling yourself that involve words such as must, should, always, or never. Those are red flags. Try to practice self-compassion and retrain that little voice in yourself to talk to yourself the same way that you would talk to a friend. If your inner critic is telling you something that you wouldn't say to a friend, then you shouldn't be saying it to yourself either. Sometimes it's actually quite difficult to be objective with yourself and kind of silence this inner critic. So in those instances, you can always ask for a reminder or reassurance from your family or from your friends. And also try to think that other people have already deemed you good enough to do this job. You've passed exams, interviews, you've done your training, and you've been deemed good enough to do this. So if you don't trust yourself, at least trust their judgment. And next, I wanted to talk about the importance of context. As doctors, we are often put in a very new, different situation. For example, if you're starting as F1, if you're going to your next level of training as HO registrar, or if you're changing rotations of hospitals. This means that we're being put outside a comfort zone, and of course we're going to be feeling uncertain and really aware that there's a lot that we don't know yet. So we need to realize that everyone has had a day one. Everyone has started from the beginning. Even those seniors that seem so comfortable and capable, they also had to start where you are. Putting yourself outside of your comfort zone also means that you're growing and challenging yourself. And in a few months, you'll look back and you'll realize how much you've learned. Practice builds confidence. Everything is hard before it gets easy. And always remember that arrogance is unsafe. If you need help or have any concerns, always escalate appropriately. An overconfident doctor is actually the most dangerous. So it's very important to be aware of what you don't know. And the last thing I wanted to say is that imposter syndrome is actually a very normal feeling. And it is normal at all the different stages of training and seniority, and it does not mean incompetence. Even the most respected and senior doctors will sometimes feel this way. And therefore, we should not see it as an enemy, but as a normal feeling that can be used to your advantage. Feel comfortable having open and honest discussions about this with trusted seniors, family, and friends. In all likelihood, they have also experienced this, and they'll have support and advice to give to you. And finally, be aware of the spotlight effect. You might feel like everyone's paying attention to you and judging you, but there's no big spotlight over your head highlighting all your mistakes and flaws. We overestimate how much people pay attention to us. I hope these tips will help you overcome imposter syndrome and have more confidence in yourself. Please leave in the comments below any tips or tricks that might have helped you. And remember, you are not where you are by accident, luck, or mistake. You deserve to be there as much as everybody else. You've got this.